What was the incident at your high school? Someone sprayed butyric acid throughout the entire school. In high concentrations, it smells like pure vomit. School reeked for weeks. Police were involved, etc. No culprit was ever found. Someone in our school threw a big fish in an air vent before vacation started. The entire floor smelled like death for weeks. They eventually found it, but it felt like the smell was stuck in the carpet. Pretty tame compared to some of the other stuff here. But my school at one point decided to crack down on anyone who had ever connected to the TOR network from the school Wi-Fi, including on personal devices. Over the course of a day or two, around 200 students were informed that they were banned from using all electronic devices, including those required for classwork, while in school for a semester. I remember walking into a programming class and the teacher asking anyone who still had computer access to raise their hand. None did. All right, everyone, get out your pen and paper. Today we're learning to write some JavaScript. You jest, but my first programming class in high school had us take tests with pen and paper. Normal assignments were done on computers, sure, but the big exams had to be handwritten. This was in 2009. One of our Japanese teachers got stabbed in the back by a South Korean exchange student. Apparently he'd said some pretty insensitive things about North versus South Korea, and the next day the student came to school with a knife. Teacher was okay. Kid was jailed for 18 months. I have a good Japanese friend, and on more than one occasion he's made some offhand comments when he's seen someone from China or Korea that made me raise my eyebrows a bit. Nothing terribly horrible, just kinda makes you go, dude? When I asked him about it, he apologized and explained that everyone from that region, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Mongolian, etc., all have a deep hate for each other. Apparently it's much worse in the older generations, unsurprisingly. A sophomore, my classmate, dropped unconscious in gym class and was rushed to the hospital. 3 days later they took him off life support, and he died from a brain aneurysm. His funeral was held in the high school gym, and damn near everyone went. Never in my life did I think I'd attend a funeral at school. A friend of mine in high school had a brain aneurysm, also as a sophomore. He'd been complaining for a few days about sudden, brief, very intense headaches. He was on the JV football team and went to play a game. Took a hard tackle and the aneurysm ruptured. That actually turned out to be the luckiest possible time for it to happen, because the school always had an ambulance on call at the side of the field during football games, so he was in the hands of EMTs within a minute of people realizing something was wrong. He was rushed to the hospital. They removed part of his skull to reduce the pressure on his brain, and he spent a week or two in an induced coma. But in an absolute damn miracle, he made about as complete of a recovery as one can from that kind of injury. The only long-term effect was some very minor loss of muscle control in the left side of his face, so his smile was a little crooked. That was back in 2000. He just died 3 weeks ago from an accidental drug overdose. I was like, yay, and then as I read your last line. Someone brought their capybara to school and it ended up becoming class president. One of the best students from this one class was found to have stolen his teacher's smartphone and online banking details. He got caught when he did the first transaction. He apparently was into football and wanted to buy some specific football boots, but his parents won't let him. If this was a movie, the teacher would have vouched for him against the wishes of the principal, and helped him realize his football dreams, eventually the kid going pro. A group of kids threw a desk out the third-story window. The desk crashed onto a girl's head and broke her neck. Fortunately, she lived. What happened to those kids? They also lived. A girl had an epilepsy attack and she lost control of her bowels. Not a pretty sight. Mean Girls type made fun of her, and she transferred to another high school. Kids can be so evil. I was friends with a girl who used to be popular, but she got cancer and lost all friends. Then we became friends. Then her hair grew back, and the closest my pacifist ass got to a fight was when the a-holes lit her hair on fire. They didn't understand how important that hair was and what it meant. Or they did and were evil. There was a kid with a violent background who got sent to the local high school in my area from another school, or district maybe. For some reason the city-state didn't want him to go to jail for being a violent, shitty person and hid his records while transferring him. Well, he ended up murdering a girl at the high school he transferred to. Then IRC he murdered his cellmate after going to prison after that. I think he's dead now. Edit. I was actually wrong about the reason he was at the school. He had a juvenile record and been in special classes due to behavioral disorders, couldn't find details, but I assume violent tendencies. But a policy of full inclusion of special ed students means he was integrated into normal school classes. I hope the victim's family sued the fuck out of the morons who allowed a violent, shitty person to attend her school. My opinion, this allowing a violent, shitty person to attend should only be done if the person allowing it sends their children to school with the violent, shitty person and also teaches them. We had so many pregnant teen girls that they had their own gym class. A friend of mine who had a fake leg, he had a solid metal rod from mid-thigh to mid-calf from childhood leukemia, so he couldn't bend at the knee, was in the same class. Just this one poor guy and 30 pregnant 16-year-olds. Edit. I was a teenager in the late 90s and grew up in the southeastern United States. It was a suburban area where a ton of people, still, identify as evangelical Christians. It's also called the Bible Belt. The required sex education classes didn't teach anything but just say no, so there were girls who thought jumping up and down would prevent pregnancy. Not kidding. These were really sheltered girls who would attend purity dances, so it was quite a scandal that so many were pregnant at the same time. Most of the baby daddies were just dumb teenage boys who didn't know the facts of life. Remember that there was no internet at this point, so it's not like teens could get information on their own, especially if they were from a super religious background. A girl on my street was sent away to live with an aunt when she got pregnant. Also, the pregnant girl gym class was technically for the physically disabled kids, hence why my friend was the lone guy in the class. My local high school had a daycare for the students' kids LMAO. In high school, 2 kids both named Logan. Both last names were very similar. One was popular, and the other was not. Unpopular Logan was drunk and ran across a road in the middle of the night, and was killed by a semi-truck. The next day the principal announced that Popular Logan had died. Popular Logan was late for school. Everyone was very sad. Then Popular Logan showed up and all school rejoiced that Unpopular Logan was the one who died. Was fucked up. Senior prank: someone dumped a few £100 of flour and yeast into the school indoor pool, in hopes of turning it into a giant glob of dough, I guess. It didn't work, just caused about $100,000 damage to plumbing, pumps, filters, etc. Prankster never caught. There was a poopatrator, leaving smeared feces around the walls in the bathroom. I found one and I'll never forget. Picture was of a flower and sun, drawn in poop. There were several incidents before the person was caught brown-handed, and several jokes about code browns. Wow, that's a really amazing image story. What a fucking artist. He was a kinda shitty artist. The female assistant principal lifted the skirts of girls attending a dance to make sure the students were not wearing thong underwear. Why the fuck would an adult conduct a panty inspection? Who cares other than the female assistant principal if the girls wore thong panties? The district said the reason for the check was to ensure appropriate school dress. Rita Wilson, the assistant principal involved in this incident, was later demoted to a teaching position. One of the science teachers thought having a class project around creating mini rockets would be a fun little activity. Well, unfortunately, he didn't notify the school where or when they were going to test these. So the school goes into lockdown because of the explosions. Him and his class get locked out of the school. Or at least that's what I've been told. Wasn't actually in that class. One of the guys at our high school thought it would be funny to pretend he had died in a car accident on a specific date. I've forgotten it now. So he didn't show up for class. Had friends spread rumors right at the beginning of the day about it. People were grieving because he was a part of the popular group, and just well known all around. So he walks in near the middle of the day smiling and laughing. People were shocked but amused, don't ask me why. A year later, exactly a year later, on the day he dies in a car wreck due to him and 3 others crossing the border between states to get drugs, the girl driving tried to swerve due to an armadillo. Out of the 4 people, he was the only one to die. People thought it was him trying to pull the same joke that year around, but no. We had the states, probably all of the US, largest sting operation in our school. It began with a senior, who looked 25, started at the school. He wouldn't date any girls, had horrible grades, and missed a lot of school. This undercover cop was trying to buy drugs and school property. He was there for several months. One day we were all sitting in class, and in the class next to us a few cops plus the principal started pulling students out of classes and arresting them. Turns out something like 20 plus kids were arrested plus some parents in the whole operation. Made the front page of the AJC with photos and everything. He had like a 7 in math class, and when the teacher would call his parents to discuss his grades, they'd get a separate line to whatever police office was acting like a parent. Apparently he was told to start trying more in class. Pretty funny for those not involved. What was the incident at your high school? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.